Good Monday afternoon. This is Michael Mitchell with Madison County Weather Updates. Haven't done a video for you in a while, so I just want to do something real quick to talk about the severe potential for really the overnight hours for Madison County. The Storm Prediction Center has Madison County in a marginal risk for severe. Goes through 7 a.m. tomorrow, but there's kind of an overlap in this between what's listed for today and tomorrow. Really, it's part of the same setup. So it's marginal risk really for us in the overnight hours into the morning. And so we'll take a look at it. Here's what they have for today, but really, again, this goes through 7 a.m. tomorrow. Then for tomorrow's outlook, they have Madison County right on the border between a marginal and slight risk for severe. The timing of these storms, you know, doesn't point. It kind of takes a little bit of the steam out of some of these storms, but this is going to be a pretty potent front that's going to come through, especially for this time of year. So we definitely need to keep an eye on it. But I'll show you the timing on it because this is kind of confusing the way this is uh, laid out. Really, again, this would appear to be two different events, but really it's just where the timing of the event is going to cross over between the Storm Prediction Center's outlook for Monday and into the beginning of the SPC outlook for Tuesday. So that's kind of, it makes it a little bit confusing. So here's a look at the high resolution rapid refresh model, the HRRR. This is at 1 a.m. in the morning. Again, this is from synopticwx.com. This is BAM Weather. My friends there at BAM, they're putting together a great tool here. Again, this is free right now. This is in the beta, so definitely check it out, synopticwx.com. Here's the high resolution rapid refresh model for 1 a.m. As we advance this forward, here's 2 a.m., 3 a.m., it would bring the HRRR would begin to bring strong to maybe severe storms into the Madison County area. 4 a.m., 5 a.m., 6 a.m., 7 a.m. It develops as secondary, like a reinforcement, and then 8 a.m., 9 a.m. It would push the severe off to the south. And then as we get into the day tomorrow, just maybe some residual pop-ups tomorrow afternoon into that early Wednesday. So that's kind of what the HRRR shows, and it's pretty robust with it. But let's take a look at another possible outcome. Let's look at the RRFSA model. It's done reasonably well with a lot of these events, but sometimes it's underdone. But you can see the orientation again, starting at 1 a.m., just like we did with the high resolution rapid refresh. But the orientation of this is more southwest to northeast, and it's not as robust with the line. And here's 2 a.m., 3 a.m. Timing reasonably the same, but look at it, kills off that first wave by 4 a.m., 5 a.m., 6 a.m. And then you can see a secondary piece of energy back in here. Here's 7 a.m., 8 a.m. It's more robust with this, but a lot more consolidated instead of where the high resolution rapid refresh has us picking up rain and storms over the course of several hours. The RRFS kills it off, kills that first part off, and just brings this part through here. That scoots on. There are a couple other storms around 10 a.m., 11 a.m. It gets it out of here. And again, it would do the same thing with just some isolated pop-ups into early Wednesday. So there's a couple of different scenarios involved in this, and we're gonna have to see how the energy really decides to get its act together or doesn't decide to get its act together. The wildfire smoke in the area is limiting the daytime heating. That takes a little bit of the starch out of it. But again, this is a strong front. We're going to be going from where we've been hanging out around 90 degrees to by Wednesday, we'll probably have highs in the low to mid 70s. So it's a pretty potent front. We don't see them that strong in July very often. So we definitely need to keep an eye on these storms as we get into the overnight hours or into the early morning hours. I'll keep an eye on it if anything happens where I would need to go live in the overnight. I will say that damaging winds are the threat with this. There's by the time these are coming through, we're not going to be in prime time for tornado activity. Tornado activity is primarily going to be to our northwest this evening and to our southeast by the time we get to tomorrow. So damaging winds, localized heavy rain, frequent lightning are going to be the main things we're going to be looking out for here in Madison County unless something radically changes. Speaking of wildfire smoke, here's the HRRR model, how it's looking at it. And of course, Madison County is sitting right in this area here. So the smoke was pretty dense yesterday. It was pretty heavy. You could actually smell it, especially in the morning. But it's not going to be that dense today, but it's still going to be around if you have respiratory issues. It could still cause you some problems as we go through the day. But we can see it begin to retreat, and then there you can see our front begin to come in. Here we get into the late evening, early hours, and then it begins to clear this off with those storms. Then we get a little bit of reinforcement, but again, not as dense as what we've been dealing with the last handful of days. And then that'll begin to get out of here. That does not mean that we're done with the wildfire smoke until those fires are out. The next time a ridge of high pressure begins to build in, which will probably be late next week, we could see it return unless something changes substantially with those wildfires back in Canada. But that's the way things are looking on the wildfire smoke. Again, still kind of a problem today, and then we should get a couple of days reprieve from it at least. Hopefully for good, but at least a couple of days. Last thing I'm going to talk about is getting out into kind of the mid range. And as we look at what's been going on in the Bering Sea, because that tends to affect our weather here, as we look back in here, Indiana roughly would be in this area as you translate that over to the United States. But you can see this strong front. This was back on the 16th. You can see a strong front pushing through. Whatever happens in the Bering Sea, most of the time will recur here in the United States somewhere in the 17 to 21 day time frame. So we're looking at the very early August. We could begin to see a strong front push in here and bring some seriously cool air. By the time we got to the 17th, that strong front was pushing off, but we still had a pretty good northwest flow coming into that area. Then here we are by this morning's run, and you can still see a strong northwest flow coming through this area. Check this out over here over the United States. Look at this big dome of high pressure that's been bringing our heat. It's kind of retrograding out to the southwest, but the flow around that high pressure really shows up. And there you can see our storm cluster and be coming in tonight. Let's zoom this in right in here. This will be what we're going to be watching for tonight and see how that affects us. But you can really see the flow around this high pressure. It's just pretty impressive. So what I wanted to, my main focus on this though was what's been going on in the Bering Sea. Are we going to be looking at a substantial cool down the beginning of August? Somewhere where we're having the highs in the 70s for multiple days. I mean, we're going to have a 2 or 3 day shot this week, but could we be looking at something that where August is cooler than what we've been experiencing? Data kind of varies on that. And I'll show you, this again, this signal would point to cool to begin August, but let's look at some data real quick and then I'll get off of here. So again, this is model data. We never want to take it verbatim, but just looking at the trend, this is the GE or the GFS, I should say. And you can see we've got this dip in the middle of the week. I think that's too cool. This is probably too cool, but we'll rebound, see another front early next week, rebound, and then potentially the strong front right here around the 2nd to 4th of August, somewhere in that time frame. So that's what the GFS has. Difference with the European. The European, here's our cool stretch where I think it's pretty on with those kind of temperatures. We rebound. I think that's probably too much right there. Then another front right there. It just comes faster with this front. Late July into early August, it dips it down and then spikes right back up by the fourth with us getting back up around 90 degrees. So there's conflict in the data. The Bering Sea would point to just after the first. Looking at this front, I think the timing that GFS had was probably pretty close. But we'll see how this plays out because there can be other factors. If anything happens in the tropical Pacific or even the Atlantic, but especially out in the Pacific, yeah, it could change things. But right now, I'm anticipating a cooler open to August than what we've been experiencing, but we'll see. That's still a long way out. So, this is Micah Mitchell with Madison County Weather Updates. As always, check out the pin posts at the top of the Facebook and X pages. Please donate to the page. You're going to hear me talking about it a lot less. I've been posting a lot less. Times are tough. People aren't able to donate. Donations are just, they are what they are at this point. We'll see where we are at the end of this year. Um, not super hopeful right now, but, maybe things will turn around economically. But at any rate, if you can, check out the top of the pin post at the top of the Facebook and X pages. Thank you so much to those of you who are monthly subscribers, those of you who donate, when you can, and to our page sponsors who really have helped keep this page going as long as it's gone. So this is Michael Mitchell with Madison County Weather Updates. I'll go live if I need it. Otherwise, an overnight. Otherwise, I will keep you up to date. And we'll talk to you later. Thank you.